Hey guys, welcome back to the Prem and Proper YouTube channel. So with Thanksgiving coming up next week, I have been experimenting with some recipes and this particular one came out pretty good. And so I wanted to share it with you guys. So I made a turkey dish that is different from the traditional baked turkey. And so I wanted to share that with you. If you saw my previous video on fried turkey wings, this is exactly the same way that I seasoned the turkey. So I used 1 onion, about 5 cloves of garlic, 2 scotch bonnet peppers, my chicken flavored Maggi seasoning. I use about a thumb and half of garlic. I use a tablespoon of rosemary and a teaspoon of anise seeds. I blended everything together, and then when I season my turkey wings, I also add 1 tablespoon of poultry seasoning and a pack of chicken seasoning that I use. I also add some salt. So at least a tablespoon of salt, but you can taste your seasoning to see if it's the way you want it. And if it's not, you can add a little bit more salt. So I seasoned my turkey wings overnight to make sure that it really marinates. I actually seasoned it for almost 24 hours. If you want your seasoning to come out really good, you want to have it seasoned for a couple of hours. So it's the next day and I'm ready to bake my turkey. I'm using turkey wings, but you can really use any part of the turkey that you prefer. I based my baking dish with some oil and then I just layered my turkey in there. The baking pan that I used was way too small. I should have used something bigger, but I didn't. Then you see what happens with that. But try and use a pan that allows you to have some space because I'm going to add a few more things in there, and this was way too small for that. If you have any excess seasoning in your bowl, make sure you put everything on your turkey because you don't want to lose any of the flavor. So after doing that, I added some turkey broth. This is turkey broth from the turkey I made the other night. This is when I made my fried turkey wings. I saved the broth. And so I'm going to put a few tablespoons of that broth onto my turkey for baking. And you can just imagine the deliciousness and the flavor that I'm going to have in this turkey. Next, I added 2 tablespoons of butter onto my turkey. Because I did not have regular butter at home, I can't believe it's not butter. If you're using regular butter, make sure it's not salted butter because you already have a lot of salt and seasoning in your turkey, so you don't want to add any more extra butter. Next, I layer some veggies on my turkey. So you absolutely want to add some onions in there for some flavor, but you can also add some other veggies of choice. So I added some baby carrots, and later on I also add some sweet bell peppers onto my turkey. So you can just imagine how delicious this is going to be. I baked my turkey covered with an aluminum foil for the first 45 minutes. And after that, I removed the foil and just let it bake in the oven. So you want to set your oven at least 375 degrees, but feel free to increase it as time goes on. So I went between 375 and 450 as I kept checking on my turkey, but feel free to even put it on broil sometimes to get that burnt look on the outside, because that's what I did. After I removed the aluminum foil, I went ahead and added my sweet bell peppers. I really could have added the sweet bell peppers earlier when I added the rest of the veggies, but I wanted to wait a little since the sweet bell peppers really don't need to cook but I still want the flavors from the sweet bell peppers in my turkey. So I didn't want to overcook the sweet bell peppers, and that's why I'm adding that in a little bit later. With the carrots, I didn't want them to be too crunchy. That's why I added those in earlier. So remember I said that my pan was too small? Yeah, it was. And it was going to start leaking into my oven if I didn't place it in a bigger pan. So that's what I did. If you have to do that, remember to put a little bit of water in the bigger pan before you sit the smaller one in there so that it doesn't burn, because when you don't do that, the bigger pan will burn. About 30 minutes before my turkey was ready to come out of the oven, I added in a pack of turkey gravy mix, and this will take your turkey to a whole nother level. So just make sure that after you've poured in the powder, you mix it in gently so that you don't spill your turkey or any of the juices out. So stir it and make sure all the parts of the turkey are getting some of this mix, and then put it back in your oven for about 15 more minutes. And then you're done. Your turkey is ready to be eaten. But when you put it back in, if you prefer your turkey to look more broiled, go ahead and put your oven on broil so that it can come out having a little bit of burnt look on it. And with this kind of gravy on your turkey, you can have this turkey with some rice, with some mac and cheese, or whatever side you prefer. We decided to have ours with some mashed potatoes, but we weren't just going to have it with just any type of mashed potatoes. We made the creamiest, tastiest mashed sweet potatoes you have ever had. So let's get into how we made our mashed potatoes. So even though we use sweet potatoes, you can also use regular potatoes if you like. And the best type of potatoes to use for mashed potatoes are the Russets or the Yukon Gold. So those are really fluffy and smooth, and so they make your mashed potatoes very flavor packed and very easy to mash. So an easy way to cook your potatoes is to first cut them up into smaller pieces like I did to make it cook easily, and also to make the mashing process easy. So I don't have a potato masher, so cooking it this way was really good for me to make the mashing process very easy. Because I'm going to use some salted butter in my mashed potatoes, I'm only going to cook my sweet potatoes with some water and a little bit of salt. So less than a teaspoon of salt, about half a teaspoon should be just right. And I'm using about 3 pounds of sweet potatoes. You want to cook your potatoes only for about 15 minutes. And the way to know whether your mashed potatoes are cooked is just to put a fork through them and see if the fork can go through it or if the fork can mash it. So that's how you know that your your sweet potatoes is cooked. Once your sweet potatoes are cooked, drain the water out and just let it sit for about 2 to 3 minutes. While you're waiting for that, you can go ahead and start making your milk. So mashed potatoes is not supposed to be a healthy side. So if you're going to make mashed potatoes, make sure it's tasty, make sure it's rich. I recommend that you use either whole milk or heavy cream, and I used heavy cream. What you want to do is get about 6 cloves of garlic and crush them like so. Put them in your milk. I used about 3/4 cup of heavy milk, and put your garlic into the milk, and also add a tablespoon of rosemary in the milk and about a teaspoon of black pepper in your milk. This will make sure that your milk is very tasty and very flavorful. So imagine this milk in your mashed potatoes. Just imagine that. It's so good. Let the milk cook for about 8 minutes using medium heat and stir it so that all the seasoning and herbs gets into the milk. While your milk is still cooking, go ahead and put your sweet potatoes back in the pan, this time with no water. What this is going to do with the heat on is it's going to absorb any extra water that is still left in your potatoes. You want to have as little water as possible before you add your milk and also before you add your butter. So at this point, while the potatoes is on the stove, I'm only going to keep it on for about 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and melt about a stick and a half of my salted butter. And I want to add the milk and the butter into the potatoes while they're both still warm. So you want to do this while everything is warm, not hot, but while they're warm so that everything absorbs nicely into the mixture. And since I don't have a potato masher, I'm just using a spatula with a flat end, and that worked pretty fine. I actually also sneaked in my tapuli to help me with the mash. And if you're from Ghana, you know what that is. There is no shame in my game. That actually helped out a bit. So I sneaked that in to just pound it and make it more smooth. Next, I'm going to put in my melted butter, not all at once. So I'm going to pour about half of the melted butter in, stir it and mix it in, and then I'm going to pour the other half. Next, I'm going to add in the warm milk after I've removed the garlic from the milk. So it's fine to have the rosemary, but you want to remove the garlic from the milk before you add it in. Again, I'm only going to put about half of the milk, stir it in, completely make sure it's really nicely mixed and smooth. You don't want it to be soupy, so you just want to mix it in and see if you need the rest. So I actually did need the rest of my milk, so I poured in the rest of my milk and see how creamy it looks. So we are all done, and look at that turkey. Just look at that. How amazing does that look? This was so good. This was seriously one of the best turkeys I've ever had. And my husband was over the moon. He loved it. He said the turkey was perfect. And he thought the mashed sweet potatoes was amazing too. To top it up, I just put a few slices of the butter on top to make sure that it melts on it and it makes it taste even better. Oh my gosh, this was so good, and seriously, one of the best dishes I have ever made. I promise you. Go ahead and try this recipe for Thanksgiving or any other day that you can, and let me know what you think of this recipe. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, if this is your first time on our channel, welcome to the family. I hope you're convinced after trying this recipe that you need to subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know how it turns out. Let me know if you want to see anything else. If you would like me to share any other recipes, I will be happy to do that. And please come back for more. We appreciate you and we love you. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.